tonight. As quickly as it began, it's over. The federal government steps in after Canada's two main rail companies lock out their employees. Also, remembering former Riders head coach Ken Miller. Plus, how a passion for community and a love of basketball turned into a lucrative business for brothers from Saskatoon.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Thursday, August 22nd, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thank you for watching. An update in what was a lockout for Canada's two major rail companies. The federal government has ordered CN Railway and Canadian Pacific Kansas City to enter binding arbitration. The two companies locked out more than 9,000 workers at midnight after negotiations broke off with the Teamsters Union. The Minister of Labour says the shutdown cannot drag on.
Under Section 107 of the Canada Labour Code, I've directed the Canada Industrial Relations Board to assist the parties in settling the outstanding terms of their collective agreements by imposing final binding arbitration.
Now, binding arbitration means a third party will review the arguments and propose a solution. Minister McKinnon also said he ordered the Industrial Board to extend the current term of the current agreements until new ones have been signed. He expects operations on both railways to resume within days. CN says it could take a week or more to get operations back to normal. The two companies combined haul about $1 billion in goods each day. Locally, there was a real growing concern about what a rail shutdown could mean here, especially for farmers harvesting and others who rely on rail transport. Alexander Kwan has more from Moose Jaw.
Things could soon be back to normal, but just a few hours ago, the mood was very different on the picket lines. A few dozen workers have gathered here at the rail yards in Moose Jaw and in Regina, forming picket lines. Now, we've been told that workers won't speak to media, but it's very clear they are frustrated. Many are carrying union signs targeting CPKC and CN Rail. But it appears the job action was short-lived. The federal labor minister announced Thursday afternoon that he's directing both sides to binding arbitration and extending existing contracts. Still, the news of a lockout drew a mixed reaction from residents in Moose Jaw.
I feel for the rail workers, but I think I'm going to feel more for the truck drivers that are going to have to double time it to haul the goods that we need in this city.
I'm sure that it will impact the economy, but it's also has an impact on the workers as far as their ability to provide for their families.
You know, anyone with a lower income is going to have a really hard time because how do you get the grains? If you can't move the grain, how do you make the bread? If you can't make the bread, what's going to happen? The price of bread's going to go up.
In Vancouver, Montreal, and Toronto, the lockout hit commuters who rely on trains that operate on CPKC rail lines. Here in Saskatchewan, major provincial industries like agriculture and mining could have been severely impacted. Both industries rely on rail to ship their commodities to market.
The only way we get paid is when we are able to deliver our grain to the elevator system. So not being able to do that because the system is plugged is going to cause some financial hardships for producers.
Many farmers are in the fields now, getting their crops cut and ready to move. The shutdown would have forced them to hold on to more product for a longer period of time. The Saskatchewan Mining Association warned that most mines, especially those in the potash sector, only have 7 days' worth of storage space. A lengthy shutdown could have had a ripple effect, forcing mines to shut down operations and laying off workers in the process.
If it takes longer than a few days for the strike, you're going to have shippers, be they agricultural or forestry or any kind of resource shipper who uses grain for moving bulk things, they're going to be potentially losing contracts.
By the end of the day, those concerns appear to have been put to rest. Arbitration ends the lockout, meaning trains could get back on the rails as soon as possible. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Moose Jaw.
Now, all that said, there could be more trouble on the transportation front. Air Canada pilots have voted to authorize a strike. About 98% of the members who cast a ballot have approved a walkout, if necessary, to win a new contract with Air Canada. The 5,000 members of the Airline Pilots Association have been pushing for greater wage parity with their American counterparts. Air Canada pilots could be in legal strike position as early as September 17th. The safety of Saskatoon streets is on the minds of residents and politicians. In fact, though the civic election is months away in November, candidates are already clashing over what needs to be done to make the city safer. Pratush Dayal reports.
This shelter in the Fairhaven neighborhood has been at the center of ongoing controversy, and now it's an election issue.
When we talk about safe streets, we talk about smart spending.
Mayoral candidate Gordon Wyant has released his election platform, and moving this shelter out of Fairhaven is a top priority.
We really think that there needs to be a location for the shelter that's close to services and yet doesn't negatively impact residential areas. But we have industrial areas in Saskatoon, and a lot of people have suggested that perhaps an industrial location in Saskatoon is more appropriate for a shelter.
To think that somehow...
Cynthia Block says Wyant is off base. As a former provincial minister, she says he should know housing doesn't belong in industrial areas.
But every jurisdiction understands that you must place sheltering of people who are unhoused in areas where there's transit and where they have access to social services. So I don't know how we do that in the North Industrial area.
Putting 106 beds when the model that was used to do that was failing downtown.
Candidate Kerry Tarasoff says industrial areas can work if they are purpose-built correctly.
We need to start doing things once, creating things that we can reuse, and then if we need to reconfigure, we do so. And a modular setup, I've talked to experts about it, and they have no problem being able to make these things.
We need to close it down.
The most recent candidate for mayor, Don Atchison, says Fairhaven Shelter needs to shut the doors entirely. He says the recovery centers should be the priority.
Homeless shelters shouldn't be anywhere in Saskatoon. They shouldn't be in any neighborhood. They shouldn't be in industrial areas at all.
Atchison won't reveal the rest of his platform yet, saying others might copy it. So residents will have to wait until next month before they start pondering their options for mayor. The election will take place on November 13th. Pratish Dayal, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Regina City Council has voted against renaming Dewdney Avenue. Edgar Dewdney served as the Lieutenant Governor of the Northwest Territories in the late 19th century. He also helped institute Canada's reserve system and establish the Indian residential school system. Last night, 7 council members voted against the proposal, including the mayor.
Collectively, the city would have an opportunity to redefine one of the most important roadways, and we couldn't even do that. This should have been a lot easier, but it would have been tough conversations. We're not willing to do that, and we're going to have more conversation about $50,000 than we are about something that we've determined to be a central priority.
In my discussions with folks in the community has been a balance of, if you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or potentially more north of $1 million, there are better initiatives to spend it on. I'm actually for the education piece. You know, we have areas that we could be telling the story. We could also be putting banners up on these light posts. We could do overlays like we do the Green Mile on Albert Street. We do have Reconciliation Regina as an organization that can provide us some feedback or some opportunities to celebrate and to advocate and to uplift.
This was quite an easy win for council in terms of reconciliation. It's a pretty low bar, and we're not willing to take it. I speculate some heard from people that taking Edgar Dewdney's name off the signs amounts to erasing history. I think that's dead wrong. As the city manager indicated in response to a question, we name streets after people not to remember history, but to celebrate people worth honoring.
Libraries have a lot to offer. More than a place to read, there's also programming and a place to take refuge. But data obtained by CBC News shows that libraries are becoming violent places. Staff say they're dealing with threats, assaults, and suspected drug overdoses. Anya Zolojowski has the story.
A man waves a knife. Police move in. Video captured in a Toronto public library. Hostile incidents are happening in Canada's libraries more often than you might think. Surprising, perhaps, for some, but par for the course for many.
I've seen books thrown at staff. I've had to call police for people bringing knives, fighting among each other.
The librarian spoke to us confidentially, worried about repercussions if she speaks out. She's had to respond to aggressive behavior, suspected overdoses, and threats.
Just profound anger, and we're there, and it's directed at us.
And these incidents are on the rise. CBC News obtained data from a number of public library systems across the country. Between 2022 and 2023, Winnipeg saw a 21% increase in the number of incidents. Vancouver, a 14% increase. And Toronto, a 71% increase. Over 2,300 incidents total, or about 45 incidents per week across Toronto libraries last year. The number of suspected overdoses in Toronto's public libraries up a staggering 529%.
I've had to call 911 before for someone I couldn't wake up.
The growing crisis isn't just in urban centers, but in small towns too. In Amherst, Nova Scotia,
we've probably called the police more in the last 2 years than we have in the previous 5.
U of T professor Siobhan Stevenson has researched this trend. She says it's a sign of the times, and that libraries are often the only free place for the most vulnerable people in our communities to go.
This is not a library problem. This is a political problem. This is a social problem.
She says governments need to spend more money on shelters, affordable housing, and food banks like this one, instead of cutting that funding.
People in the trenches and running these places are busy enough. It's time that people at other levels of public service started talking about it.
We're passionate about it. We want to protect people. And then there's a lot of stuff that we didn't expect to be in our scope. You want to help people, and they're setting us up to fail.
We reached out to the City of Toronto. It funds Toronto's libraries just like this one. In a statement, a spokesperson said that they're committed to finding ways to address the problem. They did not say whether there are plans to increase funding to local social services. Anya Zolojewski, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, another hazy day in the Bridge City, Saskatoon, among a big chunk of the province, with either an air quality advisory or an air quality statement today. It is all thanks to wildfire smoke. The advisories cover a good portion of north and central Saskatchewan. Tyreek Reed will have more on the smoke and your forecast when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Shooting hoops is more than a hobby for some brothers from Saskatoon. A few years ago, they founded Sask Hoops Elite Basketball. Now, they're originally from the Philippines, and they started with a plan to help kids from Saskatoon's Filipino community. But it has really grown and now welcomes young players of all backgrounds.
Those kids who's been dreaming to play basketball, to be in the position where I didn't get in.
Yeah, I'm from the Philippines, so basketball is everything. So basketball is everywhere. Every alley, there's basketball.
We're like Filipinos who started the camp, that our name is getting out there. Like, people are knowing about it. It's not just Filipinos. Other cultures are hearing about it, and I think they won't join the camp if they don't hear anything good out of the camp.
Our passion, the three of us, so ever since when we were in the Philippines, we've been playing basketball since we were a kid. And then when we got here, we never had an idea on how big is basketball here.
Not a lot of trainings available, so we actually decided to do this. And ever since we were young, we really love anything about basketball. Whether you're playing or you're teaching, we love it.
Our main objective back then is to help the Filipino kids. And then as we go along, I think it was after COVID, in 2022, when we got bigger, and then we got kids from different culture, different nationalities.
Now we see more people, very diverse. I think that means a lot for a Filipino group.
Our main objective as we go along in this club is to have our kids, like these kids, to play in high school basketball, to play in college.
My dad plays it, and I was like, I've started watching him play, and I was like, that seems fun. And I started playing it with him, and then I figured out, oh, this is really fun.
Basketball just helps me learn physically and mentally. So I learn how to work in a team, and yeah, it's just amazing. I think it's great.
I wasn't even expecting it. So like, I'm just every day, like I'm always grateful on what we have. So having parents trust us, their kids, to train them, it's just really a big opportunity for us.
It helps a lot of kids, it helps a lot of people who like bring family together too, you know, going to out of town, bring your family. So I think we just have to keep doing this. It doesn't matter how tired we are, exhausting. We just have to keep doing it.
The weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac. Employee pricing is on now.
And our weather specialist, Tyreek Reed, joins me now. Quite the storm leaving here last night. Did you get home without getting soaked?
I was able to, but of course I had to make a run for it, Sam. Luckily, I don't live too far away from the station. But yeah, a lot of active weather yesterday, as you can recall. Because of that, areas like Weyburn saw around 36 millimeters of rain. We didn't get a lot of that rain here in Regina, but of course we did get a lot of that loud thunder. It was a very, very active weather day for parts of South Central, even stretching all the way up into the Churchill region. Today, a lot of calmness, a very, very big difference from yesterday and throughout most of the week. Actually, today's the first day where we aren't tracking any severe thunderstorms or systems moving through the province. So it's a nice little deserved break for us. Looking at current temperatures, feeling that cooler air in the north, we're seeing daytime highs only in the mid-teens as we head down into south and central, seeing daytime highs in the mid-20s. So not only are we not dealing with any severe weather, but we're also not dealing with that extreme heat anymore in south and central Saskatchewan. Now, of course, as we head into tomorrow, we're still going to be dealing with a lot of those calmer weather conditions. Heading into tomorrow night is when we could see a system move through the southwest. That will continue to head northeast overnight. So as we're waking up on Saturday in the north, we could be waking up to those severe weather conditions as well. Heading into Saturday night, that's when a separate system will move through the southeast, and that could bring thunderstorms and severe weather along with it as well. So we could be seeing watches and warnings pop up throughout the day, throughout the province. Now, of course, we're still dealing with those smoky conditions in the north. We're seeing those air quality advisories and statements in effect. Those have now pushed further down south into central regions of the province. So Saskatoon right now seeing an air quality statement. This smoke is going to continue to travel southeast over the next 24 hours. Because of that, we could see these air quality advisories and statements expand to more areas, and that smoke is going to continue lingering on in the north for the foreseeable future. Right now, wind speeds are quite low. We aren't dealing with any breezy or gusty conditions in the province. Heading into tomorrow, a lot of those strong winds will be to the southwest. As we head into Saturday, most of the province, especially to the north, will be dealing with those strong gusts. We're going to be seeing gusts between 50 and 60 kilometers an hour, especially to the west. So you're definitely going to want to hold onto your hats there. Now, let's take a look at our 7-day forecast. Seeing those calm and dry conditions once again tomorrow, but as we head into Saturday and Sunday here in Regina, that's when that precipitation will make its way back in. We could even see some severe thunderstorm activity on Saturday because of that. Heading into Monday and the week ahead, we're going to start to feel that cooler air come back in. On Wednesday and Thursday, daytime highs will only be around 20 degrees. So I think that fall air is definitely saying hello as we head into the final week of August. Over in Saskatoon, drier conditions on both Friday and Saturday, but then that precipitation will come back in, and so will that fall air, seeing daytime highs around 19 degrees, Sam.
Well, it could change.
It can change.
Thanks, Ty.
No problem.
Imagine holding a fist-sized rock. Now, imagine it's a diamond. True story. This one was unearthed by a Canadian mining company in Botswana. It's believed to be the second largest ever dug out of a mine. It is a 2,492 carat stone, and it weighs about half a kilo. You can only imagine its value. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. As the Saskatchewan Roughriders take on the Toronto Argonauts tonight, the club is also remembering the team's former head coach. Ken Miller died in North Carolina on Wednesday at the age of 82 after a brief battle with cancer. Friends and former players have been flooding social media with photos and with memories. And among those remembering him today is former Regina sports reporter Rob Vanstone, who now works for the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
He's only here for 5 years, and this is a man who lived till 82. Yet he's so synonymous with the province, and that says so much about how they invest themselves in the province and its people during that fraction of time in his life when he was here, and we were so lucky to have him among us. But there was one day when he mentioned to me that a fan had written a letter criticizing the play of quarterback Darian Durant, and this letter was mailed late in the week. And then Darian went out and had one of his typically brilliant games, and the Riders won. And then on the Monday, Ken Miller got the letter, which did not reflect the way Darian had played most recently. And he couldn't resist kind of passing that on to me. So then when it came time for the media scrum, I said to Ken, trying to feign innocence as best I could, so what kind of, given the way that Darian played on, most recently, is there, what kind of feedback are you getting? And he goes, well, funny you should mention that, Rob. And then on he went. It was beautiful. He just loved telling a joke. He just couldn't wait. And just, it was a beautiful thing when he was on a roll. And there was just so much genuine decency and humanity about the man. And when the team won, I think people felt happy for him. And when the team wasn't as successful, I think people felt empathy not only for him, but for the entire team, because he just allowed people to get to know him and get to be close to him. And he was part of 3 Grey Cup appearances, 1 Grey Cup victory, 1 first place finish. There was so much success on the field. And that's part of his story as well. But there's just so much more to it because he was such a man of so many dimensions and just such a tremendous gentleman.
And Tyreek is back with one last look at your weather.
Thank you, Sam. And we are still going to be met with these calm and dry weather conditions tonight, so we don't have to worry about running home through the rain. Waking up tomorrow morning, also still being met with these calmer conditions. And as we mentioned, that will continue throughout the day tomorrow throughout most of the province. And we'll be seeing daytime highs in the low 30s down in South and Central. So we're going to be feeling that heat once again. In Saskatoon, we're going to be met with those hazy conditions tonight, so those air quality statements could remain in effect, and that will continue as we wake up tomorrow morning. That smoke will continue to travel southeast, so we could see those advisories and statements expand to more areas. Heading into tomorrow afternoon, seeing daytime highs in the low 30s once again. Sam?
All right. Thanks, Ty.
No problem.
And that is it for us tonight. For News Anytime, or for more on any of the stories that you saw here tonight, you can head to cbc.ca/Sask or /Saskatoon. You can subscribe to CBC Saskatchewan's YouTube channel or download the CBC News app on your phone or tablet. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful night.